Good morning, guys. I hope you're doing well. I hope the quadratic formula 1A worksheet made sense to you. If you were unable to do that worksheet, you're gonna have trouble here. So please make sure you did all of those problems, and please make sure you come to office hour if you have questions, because that's going to be the best way for me to help you. So let's go ahead and look here. Now, the only difference between quadratic formula 1A and 1B is that on 1B and on the next one, 1C, we'll notice our quadratic equations are not solved for 0. And that means we have to go ahead and do that ourselves. If you did the solving by factoring 1C and 1D, that's what I'm talking about. We need to make the right-hand side equal to 0 first. And only after we've done that can we use the quadratic formula. So let's get started. I notice I have 2x squared, 20x plus 30 is not equal to 0. It's equal to 3x plus 7. So I'm going to need to make it equal to 0. I'm going to do that by subtracting 3x. And I put it under the 20x. And by subtracting the 7, which I put under the 30. 30. So the reason I do this is you have to subtract x's from x's and numbers from numbers. So when I do that, what do I come up with? I get 2x squared didn't change. 20 minus 3 is 17, so that's going to be 17x. 30 minus 7 is 23. And then on the right-hand side, now I have what I want, which is 0, right? Because the 3x and the negative 3x cancel. The positive 7 and negative 7 cancel. All right, so that's my new quadratic equation. And again, it needs to be equal to 0 before you do the quadratic formula. All right, let's go a little further. We need to now find the discriminant. To do that, I need to know what A, B, and C are. Obviously, A is 2, B is 17, and C is 23. So when I plug that into my formula for the discriminant, remember D equals B squared minus 4AC. So I'm going to plug that in. B squared is going to be 17 squared minus 4 times A, which is 2, times C, which is 23. And you really should have that formula memorized by now. We have been using it for over 2 months. Let's go ahead and figure this out. So 17 squared is 289. Then 4 times 2 times 23 is 184, but we're subtracting it because of the negative. Let me say it a different way. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 23 is negative 184. And then finally, when I do the subtraction, I get that the discriminant here is 105. All right. Now, let's move on to plug this into our quadratic equation. So what's a quadratic equation? We're using the one that goes x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of d over 2a. So when I substitute here, b was 17, so I have negative 17 plus or minus the square root of 105 all over 2 times a, which is 2. I'm sorry, I need a parenthesis here, don't I? And then we simplify these three things separately. So I'm going to have negative 17. Now, the 105 is not a perfect square, so we are going to need to use our calculator here. So the square root of 105, we're going to have a decimal here, which is going to be 10.25. And that happens sometimes. In fact, it usually happens. On the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. And so this is where we're going to split. So I have 17 plus or minus 10.25 over 4. I'm going to do x equals negative 17 plus 10.25 over 4. And what does that become? Well, negative 17 plus 10.25 is negative 6.75 over 4. And then we just divide that with our calculator, divided by 4. And we get x equals 1.6. I'm just going to round it to 1.69. And that will be one answer. Then we do the same thing, but this time we subtract. So negative 17 minus 10.25 over 4. So this gives me negative 27.25 over 4. And again, I'm just doing this on my calculator. I'm not doing any special tricks. I just have my calculator out. And so this is approximately negative 6.81. All right, so hopefully that's okay. Again, I know that it does make the problems harder when we have to start by subtracting, but I want to just remind you, you've had practice on this already if you did all the work on solving by factoring 1c and 1d. So it shouldn't seem too out of the blue for you. All right, thank you guys.